Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andy Sanford from We Are Lean and Agile, and I'm here today to basically to replicate the session we did at UKGovCamp last weekend on NFTs in the public sector. So I'm going to try and make this as interactive as possible. So whatever medium you're on, if you want to put some questions in the chat, I'll try and keep my eyes on it and I'll try to answer them. I'm no expert in this area, but just some context for this session. Really, it wasn't about saying this is here, this is now, this is ready. It was really about building up people's awareness. So the session is actually going to go through, unusually for UKGovCamp, a bit of a presentation, but I thought I need to explain NFTs first. So going through the actual session here, what we're going to do is go through what are NFTs, what's the point of them, why should you care, and how might NFTs be used in the public and the third sector. And how are they being used, actually? As I was researching this, there are quite a few use cases that are going through. So, as I say, do remember, chuck your questions in the chat. Obviously, that if you're watching the replay of this, that's not so useful, but nonetheless, put them in there. It'd be interesting to see them. If not, if you're on YouTube, please do subscribe to our channel. Obviously, most of our channel is about process improvement, not necessarily NFTs, but feel free to add comments to the video as well, and I will try and get to those and answer any as we see fit. So do like, do subscribe. It helps us get seen by the algorithms and things like that. So let's get on with it. So what are NFTs? Basically, NFTs are non-fungible tokens. So what's the difference between Bitcoin and an NFT? Well, an NFT is a non-fungible token. Bitcoin is a fungible token. Non-fungible means it's a one-of-a-kind asset. So, you know, one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. An NFT has unique metadata and traits, which make them all unique. It also makes it more difficult to put a value on them and to quantify them, and definitely makes them a less liquid asset than fungible tokens, obviously. So real world example, Pokemon cards or art are non-fungible, versus your sort of coin and traditional money are your fungible tokens. So easy to swap, one equals one, that sort of thing. Unique tokens. So what could they be, or what can they be, or what are they? Generally, they're photos, they're videos, they're drawing, they're generative art, they're music. They tend to be digital files, but then you can also attach other value to them. So physical art as well as the digital art can be done, access to Discords, things like that. And you usually get intellectual property rights when you buy a non-fungible token. Generally, you're allowed to use it in certain ways as part of that contract. The swear word for UKGovCamp, this is based on blockchain. And NFTs are created, or it's called minting, and traded on the blockchain. So when you mint them originally, they get written to the blockchain, and then every time they're traded between people, that is written to the blockchain. And they're accessed and traded using a digital wallet, which interacts with the smart contract to allow you to buy and sell these things. So it's not easy at the moment. And if you look in the description of the video, there is a link to our website. On the website, we've written a blog around this actual presentation, and there are some more links with more information. If you want a bit more information about certain wallets and things like that, then it's all linked on there. So the largest NFT market at the moment is on Ethereum, but there are lots of other markets emerging, like Solana, Immutable X, and other chains where you can buy and sell NFTs at the moment. It's a very, very, very early stage with NFTs. And you couldn't talk about these without mentioning smart contracts. So the smart contract is what underpins it, where you write what you're getting basically as a result of the NFT, not just the JPEG. And obviously people talk about the JPEGs a lot, but it is more than that. And there's a lot more value that you can add to NFTs. And that's specifically important when we're talking about public sector uses. Trading them, there are many marketplaces, and again, these are all linked on the website. So OpenSea is the biggest market for Ethereum traded NFTs. Magic Eden trades Solana NFTs, and Token Trove is Immutable X. So that's the secondary marketplaces. You mint them, you create them. That's you interacting direct with the project. From that point on, you're selling as secondary whenever you sell them. So a bit like eBay, basically. You want to sell your goods, you sell them. You list them, you decide on your price, and you sell them. Bit like eBay as well, you need to look around and see what the selling price is and what relative value you can get, because there is no easy way to say what the value of an NFT is, and they can fluctuate greatly. So how do people make money, or how do the projects make money? So obviously they make money on the initial mint, so when they release them. And they also make a secondary royalties percentage from the marketplace. So that's really important in terms of when you think about artists and musicians and people releasing their art and stuff. It's a totally different model from in real life. So in real life, there's lots of in between people that are taking money, and actually a lot of these artists don't necessarily make any money if something's resold, but in terms of NFTs they do. So there's a lifetime value. As they get traded, there's a percentage. You set that percentage in the smart contract. It's visible to everybody. So that's how the revenue model works. We couldn't talk about NFTs without talking about gas. And gas is really the environmental cost of NFTs. Gas is a totally alien concept in terms of in real life. Gas is something that you pay to do the interaction with the smart contract. So it's based on Ethereum miners, and supply and demand, basically. What's minting at the moment, what's selling, how many people are trying to write to the blockchain, how many miners are available mining the blockchain in order to generate those transactions. So gas costs are a totally new thing. They can be massive. They can fluctuate wildly during the day, depending on supply and demand, depending on how the network, how busy is the network, how many people are trying to do it at the same time. And it can lead to, on big projects at the moment, things called gas wars, where really everyone's trying to get this big project that's releasing. There's limited supply, and people are yeah, basically changing gas settings, moving gas settings higher to try and get something. Gas costs go higher during these busy periods. And one of the most important things to bear in mind at the moment, and gas for me is a massive negative of the sector at the moment. And I'll talk a little bit more because there are some things coming which hopefully will potentially improve that. And there's lots of development to be done to make this a lot easier for the consumer as well. So it's really early. Only very early projects are going to try this in the public sector at the moment. But what it can mean if you're trying to buy a big project is the gas cost can be incredibly high. And if you get beaten to that transaction, you're trying to buy token 2, 6 other people are trying to buy token 2, you all submit, someone gets there first, 5 people get failed transactions. And that means 5 people are paying gas for no token at the end of it. So that can be a significant amount of money. That's a big problem. And the gas cost is as I said before, is where the environmental impact is coming in, because it's the cost of computing, the cost of writing to the blockchain and interacting with the blockchain. In terms of Ethereum, there is a thing called Ethereum 2.0 coming out, which is apparently, but it's been coming out for a long time. So it's one of those, it's been on the roadmap for a long time, hasn't come yet. But moving to a proof of stake model, which will mean many, many thousands of times the amount of transactions for the same sort of cost. So at the moment, gas is very high. The cost of interacting with Ethereum, with Bitcoin is very high. The environmental impact is very high. Let's not hide from that. But technology can change that. And already there are other chains like Solana, where gas costs and the computing costs are far, far lower. But that's at the cost of decentralization. So the reason gas is so high is because so many computers are interacting with the blockchain to make it immutable records. So there isn't one record of the Ethereum chain. It's held in many, 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 many computers the world over. So it makes it really impossible, or nigh on impossible. Nothing's impossible to sort of take down that network and invalidate the transactions and con the blockchain, if you know what I mean. So just to give a bit of context, and again, these some more information about each of these is linked in the blog. But a lot of you would have heard about Beeple, the £69 million piece that sold, which is actually the largest picture there at the top. It's a collage of many of his pictures, but that NFT sold for £69 million. Another one that hit a lot of headlines was 2.9 million, sorry, not pounds, dollars, for Jack Dorsey's first tweet on Twitter. So a digital version of that. So everyone can say, oh, anyone can look at that on the blockchain, but actually someone owning the NFT with that certificate of authenticity and being able to use that has some value potentially. It's not something I necessarily buy into. Some other notable ones. So Gary Vaynerchuk, who is very famous in the sector and a massive supporter of NFTs, created his VFriends collection. That's the picture of the goat there. The floor price on that is currently about 11.7 ETH, which, depending on when you're watching this and the price of Ethereum, I think with Ethereum costs at the moment, that's about £25,000. Now, they're an interesting one because they're all hand-drawn doodles. They actually had a Christie's auction for some of the originals, where the original pieces sold for 300,000, I believe, dollars, and upwards of that. And those also had additional functionality. So if anyone bought one of those, they got tickets to access his conference for the next 3 years. GiftGo as well. That particular one came with a number of NFTs that were gifted to them, and a lot of them have gone on to be very valuable. There were other particular traits of cards that gave you access to, say, one-on-one meetings with Gary V, to team meetings with Gary V, to go and play pool, or other things. There was all sorts of additional value that were built into the various different traits there. So a lot more than just you've bought that JPEG. And he also recently did a follow-up collection, which was called Book Games, where if you he did a YouTube live and said, look, if you buy 12 copies of my books, you'll get one of these tokens. And those tokens are now trading around 0.2 ETH each, which is just about more than the cost of the books alone at the moment. So that's NFTs. What sort of types? I've touched on this already. Photos, images, GIFs, so pure art stuff, music, so kind of lower quantity or more unique one-of-one pieces. You've also got things called collectibles, which are a bit more like your Pokemon cards, your Gary V ones there, your generative art, sports cards, or PFP, profile picture collections. So you're seeing some examples over there. You've also got a big factor going on now in the space is NFTs that are linked to games. So either, you know, tokens to access games or items in games. Think like buying skins in Fortnite. Equally, you can buy NFTs. Good thing with NFTs in that sort of space is that they're transferable. They're not necessarily linked to a single game. So it's one of the good things with NFTs. If you want to use it in the metaverse, you're not tied to a specific metaverse in theory. You could be in practice at the moment, but that's the way it's going. So the idea being, you know, you invest thousands of pounds in Fortnite skins for your child, and then your child decides they don't like Fortnite anymore, they're onto Roblox, and you repeat the dose or any other game. And those games can have some earning elements in there. So playing the game to earn tokens or to earn money, staking your assets in the game to, again, earn, or maybe just holding them generates some form of token or income. Then you've got projects based around metaverse. So metaverse land. There are a number of projects, again, around land. So there's things called Sandbox. Obviously, like Facebook has made a big play by changing their name to Meta. They've got their own ecosystem with the Oculus stuff. NFTs are equally creating lands, and people are spending significant amounts of money, sometimes millions of pounds, on plots of land in virtual worlds, and depending on where they are, and building things like nightclubs and casinos, and being able of having concerts, all of those sorts of things going on in metaverse lands, and those lands could be bought using an NFT. And then you've got pure utility projects, so might be getting tokens, might be getting events, access to Discord, staking, all of those sorts of things, and just anything else. There's a really emerging market. There was a golf club play recently, where, you know, buy the NFT and get membership. There's also been like a country club, not a country club because it was in New York, but a restaurant where you could buy a token, and that's the only way you could book into this restaurant, by having the NFTs. and also being able to like rent out those NFTs to other people. So if somebody else wants to go but doesn't have the NFT, you can earn by doing that sort of thing. And they can be a combination of all of these things as well. So we've looked at some of the kind of examples there. Just to look at an NFT project, what does it look like? It's not dissimilar, in all honesty, to any other project. You've kind of got the startup phase, which is about, hey, what are we going to do? You know, what are we building? What's the art going to be, or what's the utility going to be? How many are we going to make? How are we building a community? Who's going to be interested in this? What's the revenue model look like? And really defining that roadmap at the start. And then the next phase tends to be about sort of minting, about building a community around it, and explaining the story of your NFT and the value and the roadmap. And most of the NFT world goes on in each project is very likely to have a Discord channel and Twitter account, and potentially be leveraging Twitter Spaces. There are a ton of NFT Twitter Spaces going on all day, every day. That's very much how people meet and communicate. Discord, Twitter, Twitter Spaces. Obviously, there are other means of building your community. There's a lot of work going on Instagram and other social media and TikTok. It just depends who you're trying to reach out to. But building your community before you try to sell. And then the next thing really is a big thing from a revenue perspective, but actually, you know, selling the tokens and deciding the access. So how are you going to decide who gets first dibs on them? As I said, with gas wars and things like that, people do white lists or access lists, or all sorts of variation of that thing. But basically deciding on people who can almost pre-mint, maybe get it slightly cheaper. Your core supporters that have been with you from the start, maybe. And then you'll go to a public mint, or sometimes projects won't even go to a public mint. They'll just be sold out in the pre-sale phase. So that's the mint, massive thing, you know, maybe selling 10,000 things overnight, sometimes in seconds, literally, sometimes in seconds. Sometimes it takes months. But the reality is it's normally quite a short period minting, anything from a few seconds to a few hours. And then the real work starts. I suppose in the world at the moment, I'd quote Gary Vee in saying probably 98% of the projects that exist at the moment will have zero value, will have nothing. And where you get bad projects, they probably do those first three things: do the mint, take the money and run, close the Discord, disappear, or just don't bother doing any of the things that they promise in the roadmap at this stage. But a proper good project now starts doing the hard work, and that is, you know, supporting the community that you've now got. You've now potentially got maybe 5,000 owners and maybe 10,000 people in a Discord. You've got a roadmap to deliver, maybe a subsequent mint, maybe airdrop some more tokens, maybe, you know, you've bought land, you're now going to get a car and a metaverse persona to use, but really doing the hard work and delivering. And obviously in that period as well, post mint, as soon as the mint goes live, I suppose I didn't talk about one thing that happens in the mint. Often during the mint, you'll get a placeholder token. So you won't know the rarity of what you've got for a number of days. And at some point they'll do a reveal, and then everyone will suddenly see what they've got. And during that period, people can sell pre-reveal. People can sell, wait for the reveal and sell, but basically people can sell at any point. And this is where the markets come in. And obviously that is driving ongoing revenue to the project. And I talked before about the royalty percentage that can be built in there. That royalty could go to the company that's doing the project. That royalty could be split with the users in some sort of way, and anything in between, really. It could all go to the users and any permutation of that. But the continuous revenue coming from secondary, obviously, is really quite different for creators specifically compared to in real life. And really, these things are a business now. You know, potentially, I was listening to something earlier. They were talking about a project and they were expressing their disgust at what had happened post-mint. And they were basically doing the maths on, you know, they've sold out, maybe just overnight created $3.2 million of value, and then have done nothing. The real good projects are about, right, we've done this, we've delivered what we said in the roadmap. Now we're going to start to build the business and build the community and build the extra value into the projects. So that's NFT projects. All of that really is just building the background around what NFT projects can be. And here I'm going to go through a few examples. I did actually look, as I was challenged to do this for UKGovCamp, I reached out on Twitter to a number of people and came up with actually some really good examples where things are live already. I didn't expect there to be many, but there are some good examples of where things are happening. The first one I come across is interesting project going on in Greater Manchester, which is involving street lights, traffic lights. It's involving Internet of Things, so connecting those street lights and traffic lights to IoT. So, you know, digitally tagging them, knowing your assets, and believe it or not, that's a big problem to most councils, is just geolocating and knowing who's responsible for maintenance is a big thing. And IoT obviously helps in terms of, you know, being able to tell you a street light's out without someone having to report it, or even giving you predictive data about when a street light will go out or other things need maintenance. But the NFT element with this, you may or may not be aware, depending on where you work, but streetlights are actually very important for telecoms companies, so they can mount their, you know, their masts on streetlights, and they can be licensed to specific companies. So that all that is done in traditional ways at the moment. You know, you'd have to try and contact the council and work out who's responsible for the asset. Is the asset available? All of those sorts of things. So in this particular project, they were actually doing that sale or that leasing or that rental through an NFT for the street lights. So the asset has an NFT. If you want to put a mast on it, you go and buy that mast. And you're then able to mount your telecoms stuff on that asset. So that's something that is going on in a real project in Greater Manchester at the moment. Just an example. Lots of things around that could be done. Museums is probably one of the easiest one, and there's quite a few examples. Again, in the blog, there's quite a few examples. So they've got many thousands of assets, often not on view. I mean, Torbay Council, where I used to work, limited amount of museums with limited displays, loads and loads of assets. Lots of assets get sort of rented out and shared with other museums. But ways museums are using, there's actually a really good article in the blog with lots of different examples of how museums are doing this. But in order to raise funds, what about having a digital version? So I could buy the digital version of something that's in the museum. Now, that obviously doesn't give me the physical asset at all, but in the chain, maybe it gives me the digital rights to use the image. Maybe it gives me a plaque wherever it's displayed in the museum, or a digital plaque or something like that. Or maybe it gives me access to, you know, membership to the museum or special museum events. Or even it could be used between museums. So as I said, there's a lot of loans of stuff going on between museums, which are all done in particularly traditional ways at the moment. How about cutting out a lot of that paperwork and being able to interact directly with an NFT and do that in a more efficient manner? And obviously we're early, and there's lots and lots and lots of challenges around the chains and interacting with digital currency and digital wallets and all things like that. But just thought pieces. So next example, lots of work going on in various countries about identity records and licensing. So the immutable nature of the blockchain and the fact that it's not owned by any single person. You've got people like Ethiopia, Georgia exploring driving licenses and also educational qualifications. So I was thinking in the UK, you know, I don't know how it works. It's been a long time since I've been at school, but you know, when I was at school, we did GCSEs, and there was many different exam boards, and they're all producing these paper certificates at the time. Maybe there's a better way of a register of your qualifications and your driving license, a digital version of your driving license, or parking permits. Something I was exploring a few years ago with a couple of tech friends of mine, talking about ID and how maybe there is not necessarily a public sector use, but a personal use of blockchain and ID. And instead of people like Google and Facebook and everyone commercializing your data by using platforms such as YouTube, LinkedIn, you know, Google, those sorts of things, maybe you could control your ID. Maybe you'd be quite happy for some insurance companies to have your data from your digital device on your arm. Maybe you would, if that brought down your or either if you got a micro payment for it, or if it was going to bring down your premium. But lots of stuff about identity records and licensing going on, countries exploring it around the world. Municipal funding. So these next couple of examples, I think, are from India. So basically talking about how do local councils raise money for the local area, possibly looking at selling digital ownership of assets and historical buildings as a way of people investing money into the local area, maybe giving them some additional utility value through physical or virtual access. I mean, these are all very, very early ideas, and like I say, very early for this. Something I find fascinating and I've looked a lot at is digital twins and things like that. So really going the next step, the metaverse and digital twins. A lot of stuff is being done around digital twins in industry. So There's a Copenhagen railway station that was built in a virtual world first, so spending a fraction of the money they would to put bricks down and start to build something, but build a digital twin of what they're planning to build and then allowing people into it in the metaverse. That's an example of how they're using it for design, but people like Siemens having digital twins of their trains. So before you go on site, if you're going to repair a train, you can actually physically walk around that train and see where you'd need to go, where a particular component is housed, even how you can fix it and things like that. So there's a lot of space in there for, again, kind of linked to the municipal funding. I think a lot about local government, but why not have a virtual tool bay? And why not have ways that people can support the local area by being able to have particular elements of that and get some perceived value in a future world? And the final one, which is way left field from my perspective, is taking that to the next level. So we've got a virtual tool bay. You know, how about we make some games in there, you know, and allow people to play maybe digital Monopoly, Risk, real-time strategy games, but, you know, bit frivolous potentially for public sector. But do you know what? I can see in the future that certainly the gamification element of things, it's bound to come towards it. You know, maybe there is ways we can educate people on better refuse and recycling through games in the metaverse. NFTs don't have to be costly. You could give them away, you know, and that could give them access to certain things. I don't know, way left field. So I realized I've gone a long way, and I see there are a couple of comments. So VUM and Go, apologies, I'm not too sure what that is. So the other one, we'll be keen to learn more about this, see this recording if possible. Okay. Absolutely, it's recorded, Nick. Yeah, so didn't mean to bring your email up there on screen, but anyway, Nick, yes, absolutely, it's recorded. It's up on LinkedIn and it's up on YouTube. And if you wanted to explore the conversation further, I would love to. Actually, probably just before I close out here, important to pick up, there were a few people at the UKGov event UKGovCamp who were interested in potentially exploring the conversation further. So I think the next step will be that we'll potentially put out just an invitation to see if people want to come to a virtual meetup and just to discuss if there is anything we can do at this early stage. And actually, if you are in government or local government or related public sector organizations like museums, like the third sector who are doing this. I mean, the third sector is using this for fundraising. Third sector, it's a very simple fundraising model. They're already doing things like lotteries and stuff like that. NFTs can easily be an extension of that and a way of people contributing and getting some value. So we will be having a follow-up. If you are interested in any way in being part of that, please do get in contact. I think the next slide's got my contact details on there. So yeah, do email me, Andy at weareleanandagile.com, and I'll make you aware of when we're likely to hold that next workshop. So if you're interested, if you're working in and around the public sector, or just interested in how NFTs may be used in the future, I know absolutely nothing. It's something that I got interested in through a Gary Vaynerchuk presentation at a virtual meeting I attended during lockdown. I have spent some time studying it and being active in the community and learning about it. I do think it's got major uses in private sector and projects and art and music, and metaverse being one of those interesting words that really has no definition at the moment. But yeah, it would be great to get people who are interested together and then just see, is there a group? Is there something we can start to do? Love to hear from anybody who is doing it as well. Please do get in touch. Please do like and subscribe if you're on YouTube to this channel, or leave some comments on the video, either on LinkedIn or YouTube if you want to, and feel free to get in touch. And if you're looking at processes, which is our business and we do know a lot about, and I'll happily talk forever on that, please do get in touch. We can really help you map processes better and improve your processes and show you a much better way to do that, so that you can identify wonderful ideas and opportunities for improvement, maybe such as blockchain in the future. But thanks for your time. Hope it was useful. It's kind of an idiot's guide by an idiot in NFTs, but just quite thought-provoking what can be done. Do have a look at the blog as well. It's linked in the description of both of these events on LinkedIn and YouTube. It's got some more links if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about what's going on. So thanks a lot, and see you on another video or at another wonderful UKGovCamp event.